Well, greetings, everyone. I want to talk about the heart today. How's your heart feeling? We know that, the Bible mentions the heart many times, and it's dealing with how we feel, our emotions, and where we draw our values from. And so Jeremiah 17 and 9 and 10, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? I, the Lord, search the heart. I try the reins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doings. In this center point, the focal point of man's thoughts and emotions, is where this potential to love and to hate and to heal and to feel. And it's what the Bible refers to as the heart of man. And it's where we really live. It's our true self. You feel, you love with your heart. You long to see a loved one rejoice and embrace them. It's with this central hub of our emotions that we start off really to either succeed or fail, because the heart has a great deal to do with who we are physically, because we deal with things according to a value of feelings, and we go left or right, or we stand still. And so from the heart, life will spring forth. Jeremiah 17 and 10 tells us God searches the heart. But I, the Lord, search all the hearts and examine the secret motives. I give all people their due rewards according to what their actions deserve. New Living Translation. So God operates according to our real self, our heart self. And Proverbs has some things to say about the heart as well. Proverbs 16 and 23, the heart of the wise teaches his mouth and adds learning to his lips. The wise will speak from their heart, and their words will certify their true value. A wise person will learn when to speak and when not to speak. A wise person will put good into their heart and then be blessed by its fruit. And so what we put in is, of course, what we get out. Proverbs 18 and 12, before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty, and before honor is humility. Before destruction, the heart of a man is haughty. And it all goes back to the heart. We can talk about our mind and talk about what we think, but we act according to our feelings. We feel a sense of going one direction or another. We feel the need to stand still, to rise or to fall. Like dark clouds, we know that they're going to bring rain. A haughty heart will lead to destruction, but conversely, humility leads to honor. When we're humble, we leave space there where the option of our human will can be on display, but with humility, we can give into that higher plane. Many things that we think are hidden will surface, and that's not always in a good way. When a person's under stress, there are times you're going to find out what's in their heart. When they go through trouble, you'll find out what's in their heart. But what is evident is that the heart is true. What you really are will eventually be revealed, because the heart, it's where it is. The heart is where you sit. That's where you speak from. And I know we're talking about the mind, but it's the mind in regards to emotions, values, systems we've learned, and where we stand and how we live. Proverbs 20 and 5 says, counsel in the heart of a man is like deep water, but a man of understanding will draw it out. Counsel is there. It's in his heart. But it sometimes takes somebody to draw that out. Also, there's things in our heart that don't come to the surface until we sit in a church service where we worship God and we get our hearts right. We've heard that term, get your heart right with God. There's a term in construction and building called plumb and level. And for something to be plumb means it's straight up and down. It's not off at all. And to have a heart that's in line with God means that we have to understand first God's values and his expectations, and then line up our values and line up our heart with God. A person of understanding can release counsel or reasoning with another person. And sometimes our heart just needs someone else to reason with it. Often preaching deals with our heart, teaching. And so we open ourselves up in a atmosphere where there's the Word of God, and we allow God to have his way. We allow him to to bless us, to fix us. And I know when we come to church, we'll say, that service blessed me. And really, many times what happens is we got our heart back right. We made the minor adjustments and it got into the right place. Jesus said in Matthew 12:34, he was talking about the Pharisees. He said, "You brood of vipers, how can you, being evil, speak good things? For out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." Not the abundance of the mind, but it's where your emotions are, where your feelings and your values are, from the abundance of the heart. The Pharisees ignorantly said Jesus could cast out demons. They said, "It's because you are a demon." Comparing them to slithering snakes wasn't off the mark. They were spiritually void and unable to perceive anything godly, because out of the abundance of the heart. And what is in our heart will eventually come out at some point. And that's why we need to put good in there and be sure what's in there is based on values from His Word and from His Spirit, because it will eventually come out. I've said and talked with people before in counseling, and I've sat there feeling like there's something you're wanting to say, but you have to just be patient, continue to wait, build some trust, and before long, what's really in there, the real meaning, the real need comes pouring out. And what you're seeing is their heart. They might have guarded it because they don't want to be injured, but eventually you'll see the real issues of the heart. In 1 Kings 15, verse 1 through 4, it said, "In the 18th year of King Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, reigned Abijam over Judah. 3 years reigned he in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Maacah, the daughter of Abishalom. 3 years he reigned." That's not a very long reign at all. And so after David, of course, was his son Solomon, and then Solomon's son was Rehoboam, whose son was Abijam. And it said, "He walked in all the sins of his father, which had done before him, and his heart was not perfect with the Lord his God, as was David his father." He had a father he could have followed after, or in this case, a grandfather. He could have followed him. "Nevertheless, for David's sake did the Lord his God give him a lamp in Jerusalem to set up his son after him and establish Jerusalem. Because David did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord and turned not aside from anything that he commanded him all the days of his life, save in the matter of Uriah the Hittite. And there was war between Rehoboam and Jeroboam all the days of his life. Now the rest of the acts of Abijam and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the Kings of Judah? And there was war between Abijam and Jeroboam. And Abijam slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and Asa, his son, reigned in his stead." Abijam only ruled 2 years before he was removed. That's how out of line his heart was. And I believe here there's also a sense that God judged him not just according to, being a king and what was required, but just look back at your heritage. You could have looked back to Solomon. You could have looked back to David. But why did you just use your father? Why did you just use Jeroboam, or Rehoboam rather? Why did you not just look at him and take some tips from that? But he ruled 2 years before dying. And in the 20th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, reigned Asa, his son, over Judah. And 41 years he reigned in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Maacah, the daughter of Abishalom. And Asa did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord, as did David his father. So Abijam, all he had to do was just look past what was easy. Set the bar higher. And it's too many times we see people that are affected by a friend or a family member. And what the matter is not, it's not their mind is off, it's their heart. It's their value systems, it's their emotions, the feelings. The feelings is how we put value on what we hear. It's our heart that puts a value on that sermon we heard or a Bible study. It's your heart that puts a value on a prayer meeting. It's your heart. And so that's why if our heart's not right, the Word of God is not going to be effective in our life. Verse 9, in the 20th year of Jeroboam, king of Israel, reigned Asa over Judah. 41 years he reigned in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Maacah. He did that which was right in the eyes of the Lord, as did David his father. He said, not Abijam, not Rehoboam, I'm going not to Solomon. I'm going to go do what my great-great-grandfather did. I'm doing what David did. So he took the time, the effort to read his history books, to listen to the stories and say, I'm going to pattern my life after the one that I know was right with God, not the one that got by. You know, Solomon was a good man. He was wise, but he corrupted himself, especially in his latter years, with marrying many foreign women. But David did what was right in the eyes of the Lord. But it says, except for that issue with Uriah the Hittite. It mentions that. It says, you know, he messed up there. But Solomon, he was wealthy. He was full of wisdom. But he later began to marry way too many wives, and they pulled his heart away from God. And so Asa said, I'm going to go back to the one that did everything right. Because a good heart says, I want to do what's right, not what I can get by with. I want to do what the Lord is going to bless me with. So, see, Asa had a father he could have looked to as an example. But instead, he said, I'm going to go back to where the pattern was correct. And what we must ascertain is that Asa, with all options around him, chose to do good. Because he could have looked at his dad and said, you know, I'll do like my dad. And, you know, I'll see if I can maybe get a better run than he did. But he had a heart that was right. He wasn't saying, what's the least I can do to get the best benefit? Because I'm a king and I know I'm going to be ruler, so let's just get the best benefit out of this. We see dictators do that all around the world. They become a dictator and then they change the laws so they don't ever get voted out of power, and so they become established dictator. Instead of thinking, what about the people? And so, but to live his whole life with a perfect heart, you know also that Asa had to have a desire, a real heart's desire to please God. Verse 12 says he took away the Sodomites out of the land and removed all the idols that his fathers had made. So that's going back to Solomon allowed him with his strange wives. And also Rehoboam after him. And so when the kingdom was divided and, 10 tribes was given to Jeroboam, Rehoboam had an easier job. It was something manageable. If he didn't have the leadership qualities, he could have just managed. It was a smaller group now. But he still failed God and worshipped idols. And in verse 13, it talks about Asa. Also, Maacah, his mother, even her he removed from being queen because she made an idol in a grove. It doesn't say she was totally consumed with idolatry, but she was there. She made an idol in a grove. And he said, I'm drawing the line right there. I'm not going to let my mom get away with it. His mother could still be an influencer. She could still be an influencer. So he made sure that the things that could influence him, he cast them away from him because he had a good heart. She made an idol in a grove, and Asa destroyed her idol and burned it by the brook Kidron. What this probably means is he made it very public. He let everybody know. He went down to a place where people could notice it and said, I want you to see what I'm doing here. I'm not for worshiping an idol. I'm trying to get back to the ways of God. But the high places were not removed. Nevertheless, Asa's heart was perfect with the Lord all his days. So idols and sodomites are together there in the same sentence. I will surmise that there's a connection between the two. When a nation worships idols instead of God, a spirit of perversion rises. As Asa took them away, and he took them away in order to purify not his life, not his family, but a nation. And then he removed his own grandmother because she made an idol. He made a statement that countered her statement. When those in leadership do wrong, the people will quickly follow. And so what Asa said is, I want everybody to understand what I'm doing here. I'm making a public showing that my heart's right and our hearts all need to get right. And when those that are in authority make a little decision, it might seem small, but it can have great effect. And so, as a pastor, I examine myself daily, and all pastors do. I know this is not a new thing or abnormal thing. But I pray today that if my heart is even getting slightly off, that God would draw me back in line, because I want my heart to be perfect. I want your heart to be perfect. I pray today that every one of us could just examine ourselves for a moment today and say, Lord, search me and know me, and see if there's anything in there that you need to get out, that I need to clean out, because I want my heart right with God. May the Lord bless each and every one of you today.